It is Saturday morning. Guess where I am? I'm sitting in a chair talking to my good friend Dewey Freeman. I'm Mark Sylvester. We're the Elder Council. Dewey, I've been thinking all week about something that I don't think most of us were very good at. And there was a song when you and I were growing up. Breaking up is hard to do.
Yep, I remember that song.
When I say that, what do you think?
Pain, hurt, loss. I actually experienced that where a girl broke up with me sort of while we were listening to that song.
Oh gosh,
so
the universe.
The universe, like thanks, Mark.
Ooh, I didn't know that was a trigger.
Probably nobody else has ever experienced that. Wow. Yeah, I was.
How old were you?
I don't know, early 20s, late teens. I was little Dewey then.
Oh, yeah?
Young Dewey. So, yep.
We associate songs with deep memories like that.
Yeah, there's something about that. I mean, it's really interesting. And this is a little off topic, but I grew up not listening to music because of where and how I grew up. Was in Amish community, so it just wasn't there.
Did you say Amish?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like, to be clear, I did not grow up Amish. I grew up in a community that was Amish for many, many different reasons, and I have cousins who were Amish, are Amish. But that was the culture that I grew up with, and you didn't listen to radio. You didn't listen to songs. I did not know who the Beatles were until I heard about them in high school.
Wow. I think I grew up with a turquoise blue transistor radio with one thin little earbud glued to my head for years and years. I was a drummer growing up. And so music was a big deal. One of the things about this week, this topic is there's a lot of things converging on it, but one of them is when you determine that a relationship is toxic. It may be bad for other reasons, but I'm going to use a kind of a loaded word, a toxic word, because it can have far-reaching effects on other areas of your life.
For sure.
And I don't know that any of us are very good at removing the toxicity from our lives. And that's what I want to talk about.
So I am totally getting what you're saying. Would you define what you feel, what your definition of toxicity is? When you say that, what is it? And actually, maybe even more importantly, when you say that and allow yourself to feel that, what's that feel like in your body?
Yeah, it's so I too can go back to plenty of relationships, and it's interesting when you start feeling the impact of the relationship negatively and you discount that feeling for one reason or another.
You bet.
Right? You're starting to get some, it's when none of us are perfect, right? And so and when you're in a relationship with someone, a close relationship with someone, and they do something that makes you kind of, when you're in love, it's cute. It's charming, right? It's endearing. And the more evolved you get, the more you're committed. You work on getting rid of those things. And then something happens, and I don't know what it is, and it's like, that's not cute anymore. And the feeling, it doesn't feel good inside. And if you feel safe, you could say something about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't feel safe, you internalize it, and it just now it starts to fester and get bad. And that's the feeling. And I'm trying to understand how self-aware we need to be to kind of own that. And no matter all the other good stuff you think that's piled around that,
Mm-hmm.
how do you guys got to cut that out?
Cut it out. As you're talking, the word contempt comes to mind.
Wow.
And let me share a little bit about what that is for me. What you described makes a lot of sense. And God knows I've done that a few million times. And I don't know anybody who hasn't. Early on, when that feeling comes that it's like, ooh, this is not okay, but we override it. One of the pieces that I think happens is that, and we've talked about this way back, is that we end up making a choice between attachment and authenticity.
All right. Keep going.
And what I mean by that is that when we override a toxic moment and don't work through it, and I very much believe that toxic moments can be worked through.
Yes.
But when we don't do that, we're making a choice between trying to stay attached versus being authentic in a relationship.
Okay, there you go. Thank you.
And what's interesting about that is true attachment includes authenticity. So even if we choose attachment, what we think is attachment over authenticity, it's not true attachment. It's not that real core attachment.
It's a false
trust.
positive.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Over time, when we do that, and when we do that on a repeated basis, the underlying process that I see is that one person, or maybe both people, end up feeling contempt for the other person. And that, when that happens, at least in my world, when I see that happening, what I see is, I mean, that's really when a relationship, when that contempt comes in, that's when a relationship almost is beyond the point of no return.
So, couple of things come to mind. I'm going to go back to our title because I think the title's great. Breaking up is hard to do.
It is.
There's, and I love the word contempt in this context. I don't like the word, but I love the word in this context.
More than fair.
Yeah. I want to pencil in the word and set it up over here on the board, betrayal. I want to have that up there for just a second. Because I think in this case, it's been said that the person who's being broken up with has a sense of betrayal. Because they probably feel the contempt as well, but maybe have not identified it. I can't, unless they're unconsciously incompetent in relationships, as we've talked about, right?
Yeah.
If they're unconsciously incompetent, they don't know, and they're clueless and fuck off, right? It doesn't matter. But if they're consciously incompetent, like they just don't know, and someone else goes, like, why aren't you feeling betrayed? Would make me think. But that was a little side trip.
No, I'm following you.
The breaking up is hard to do. There's a I don't think it's the time when you break up. I think the hard to do is the preceding, the point when you say, hold it, the contempt is too much.
Right.
I need to.
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. And then how long it takes you to honestly make a decision to do something. And I think that's the hard part.
So in between an awareness of I can't do this anymore to
I have to do something now. What do I now? How am I going to do that? What is the thing you need to do, right? And when you'll hear, you will hear, I can say words, you will hear a life coach say, you need to remove the toxic elements in your life, which makes sense. It gets thrown out like that.
Right.
I think it may be one of the harder things to do in relationships is to end them.
Absolutely. And to end them with any level of grace.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you for adding that.
So I could either make a statement or ask a question right now,
what feels best to you?
Let me make a statement and then ask a question. My statement is, in my life, this is a very personal thing. I have had the messages of never give up, never give up, never give up. And in fact, last time we were on, I talked about the 10-day Aikido and horsemanship piece that I did. And one of the pieces of feedback that I got I got two major pieces of feedback. I got a lot, but two biggies. One is that in that setting that I was an honest student, which I can talk about on some levels. But the other was that I was incredibly diligent. That when there was something that I needed to work on, I would work on it until I got it. And that's an internal value that I have. That serves me well sometimes. Actually, that serves me well most of the time. Where that does not serve me well is when I'm working on something diligently, when I also have this underlying energy of contempt. Because what that does is create an incredible incongruence inside me.
That's the statement. I agree. And then we talked about grit and tenacity. We have talked about grit and tenacity. Right. So those are where we see those at play. Okay, so what's the question?
Well, the question is for people, but more specifically for men in this, because this is generally directed toward men, is when do you give up something? When do you let go of something?
So words matter here, because give up.
I got that. That's why
and let go.
Go ahead. You are on the right track, my friend. Keep going. You are on the right track.
We don't have to say anything because everybody heard that.
Right. Well, and when does letting go feel like it's giving up? When do you feel like not just you, but you universally? When do you let the piece of I won't give up override the toxicity of a situation that you're in?
A metaphor for this, a visual that again, most men could probably agree to is, when do you cut bait?
Yeah.
Right? I love fishing. I love catching more than I love fishing.
That makes sense.
And when you're stuck, there's a couple things. One is I'm stuck. Let's see if this metaphor plays out. I'm stuck because I'm caught on a log. You know, it's intractable, right? I'm caught on a log. There's no way I'm smart enough to know I cut bait. There's no emotion to that. I don't feel like I lost something, right? I was like, no, you weren't going to be able to move that thing. So everybody pay attention how many relationships you've been in. You know you're not going to move anything. That's an easy cut, right? Yeah, right. But then there's the one where I've been fishing for a while and nothing's happening. And or yeah, maybe nothing's happening. It's time to move on. Right. It's so I'm not really cutting bait. I'm kind of letting go of that. I'm going to
You
move
need to
on.
go up the river or down the river or something.
Right. And there's something about cutting bait where, and I haven't ever had this experience. I've never had it where the fish was too big and I had to cut bait. That hasn't happened to me. I'd love to be in a situation where it's like I was going to lose. The fish was going to win. We could imagine what that's like. But there's something about that when you, going back to the contempt, where the contempt is no, here it is. I think when the contempt is, you have lost the ability to contain it and it's now spilling out.
Right.
And that now it gets ugly and venomous and fights and all that stuff that we all have close personal relationship in our lives with those things happening. And it's because we haven't, I don't know what it's because, but a cause potentially is that contempt is boiled over and we weren't astute enough or in tune enough or paying attention to know, okay, this is fucking with me. I need to get rid of this.
What comes to mind? So I'm sticking with your fishing metaphor. And I have two images. One is being on the water in a boat of some sort. The other is fly fishing in a river. And what's interesting, you said you like catching more than you do fishing. I couldn't give a flying rat's ass if I catch a fish. I like to wade in the water. And I love the being there, but that's an aside piece. What I'm thinking of, the metaphor is, so let's talk about let's talk about fly fishing and standing in the middle of a river. There is one piece of, I mean, there is the log, there is I've cast into this one eddy 27 times, nothing's happened. There's also the standing in the river itself. And I don't know if you have ever had the experience of going, okay, this is great. And then you take another step and you drop in over your waist.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Or a part of the river is just too fast. Or the other metaphor, if you're out on a boat on the water and it's like fishing's going great and then a storm comes up and you can barely stay in the boat and your boat's going to capsize. That's what this feels like to me. It's not whether I got a log or whether I didn't get anything or whether I got a huge fish on the end. It's like the friggin' boat is capsizing. That's what, to me, that's what the toxicity and the contempt is about, is that the foundation of the relationship is eroded. Or I can't stand in the river any longer, either because maybe my boot's leaking or my waders are leaking or something. But it's like what that part of, that's the piece. And it's like, when do we learn that?
It's when you don't have a choice but to exit because you are in peril, and it's mortal peril.
Yes. And that's the toxicity.
There
When
you
do I
go.
learn
There
that
you
it's
go.
not about the fish? It's about
Yeah, it's about you.
it's about the foundation. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm standing in the middle of a river, and it's like just ready to sweep me down the river, and I'm still worried about the fish. And
Much more apt visual, because to your never give up, we're guys, right? We don't give up. It's like, no, I'm getting a goddamn fish. I don't care if the wall of water's coming at me. I don't care. I've said I was going to get the fish. I'm going to get the fish. I'm going to bring the fish home. Devil be damned.
yeah, and and so, and I'm just playing with this. Have you ever stood in a river and the bottom is sort of sandy-ish,
Sure.
and you're standing there, or even at the edge of the ocean, and you're standing there, and a wave comes in and goes out, and your feet sink in about 3 or 4 inches, and then the next one it goes in and out. You're up to mid calf. The next one you go in and out a bit, and it's like you're up to your knees, and then at some point, when are you going to get out? When are you going to?
Wow.
When are you going to switch from trying to catch the fish, or doing whatever you're doing, to looking at what's underneath, what's the foundation of this relationship? And at least in my experience, when I really look at the foundation of the relationship, breaking up is hard to do, and I can do it. If I'm still trying to catch
Sure
the fish,
doesn't feel like that, though, when you're in the middle of it.
that is true. But that's because I think many times we're still trying to catch the fish.
We haven't made that shift to now to go into self-preservation mode. Save yourself. I was thinking, I could see this guy I was slowly sinking into the shore, at Butterfly Beach. You see it, there's his head. He could, at some point, you're making a calculation. Can I get out? No, I can say, can I get out? Can I say, no, I hold it. If I wait a second longer, I won't be able to get out. And then I die, right? The worst case is I die. So here, dear listener, thanks for being patient with two elders, because it takes us a little while to get to it. But once we got to it, it's such a beautiful painting to think about. How do you? I kind of want. The word coming to mind is exit gracefully, but you have to get personal now, because now it's about your preservation, and it's no longer about the fish. I have to save myself. The fish be damned. I need to get the boat. I need to get safety. I need to get to safety in whatever instance. And we're talking about emotional safety, because you've been in this toxicity has gotten, the contempt has grown to a point to where it is killing your spirit, right? Could be killing your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And you hopefully, dear listener, you get it before it kills you. And it's or you hurt the other person, right? That's a very real thing as well, because you want it to stop so bad. The only way I can stop it is stop it at the source. And don't want to do that, right? Because that's violent, that's bad. So when you you go, okay, I got to do this. How? Because now you have to live with your own feeling until you can figure out how to get out, how to extricate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another part of breaking up is hard to do. You've made the decision Now you have to live a little bit of a dual life until you figure out your timing and how you're going to do the thing, right? And be able to exit gracefully in one way or the other. Whether it's a toxic job, you've got a toxic manager, or it's a toxic relationship, or whatever it is.
Like you're talking about, how do you make that decision? Or when
No, you've made the decision. How do you live with that duality of because now I'm trying to be authentic to myself, but I'm not authentic to the relationship.
Well, that depends. Staying in a toxic relationship with another person, regardless of whether it's a friend or lover, is not a loving process.
Correct.
It is not loving toward them. I cannot tell you how many people I get that say, I don't want to leave him, or I don't want to leave her, or I don't want to leave them because I love them, or it would hurt them so much. Staying in a toxic relationship is toxic not only to you, but to the other person. And then many people go, well, I'm afraid to get out, and I'm afraid of what will happen. And I wish that I had, this next thing I'm going to say, I wish I'm the one that made this up, but I don't know who said this first. So otherwise I would give whoever that was credit. We are generally not afraid of getting out of a relationship. What we're afraid of is what we will feel when we get out of the relationship. Mm. We're afraid of our own process of the hurt that we might feel, the loss we might feel, the fear we might feel. We're not afraid to get out of the relationship. We're afraid of what we will experience and what our feelings are.
And I learned 49 years ago when my son was born in the Lamaze, I call it Lamaze, the Lamaze class. She said, you will be fearful. There is a lot of fear to giving birth, for both of you.
Oh, for God's sake, yes.
Right, a lot of fear. And she said, my job is to tell you everything that's going to happen and when it's going to happen and how it's going to happen so that you're not fearful. Because when you know something's going to happen, you're not afraid. We're afraid because we don't know what's behind that door. What's that spooky noise? We don't know, and we're fearful. And so to your point, Doctor, we're afraid because we don't know how that person's going to react.
Well, that's a part of it, but we also aren't sure how we're going to react. We get afraid of our own feelings. It's like, and in fact, many times it's more predictable how the other person's going to react than it is how we're going to react.
Which is the word when the word betrayal comes out, because no matter if I do a very good job of exiting, my exit strategy is planned out and it's perfect. I mean, I couldn't, it was best practice, like do this, this. The person still feels betrayal. And if I do a crappy job of it, they still feel betrayal. There's no action on my part that will have them, will reduce that, their correct.
Right.
So which makes you think, should I worry about doing a good job of it or not? Just pull the damn Band-Aid off.
Well, that depends on whether you want to betray yourself.
Right to the nub of it.
So if I do a lousy job, X person's going to feel betrayed. If I do as good a job as I know how to do, that person will feel betrayed too. What's going to happen inside me? If I do a crappy job, I'm betraying myself. If I do it to the best of my ability, I'm not betraying myself. If I allow myself to experience what I feel, regardless of what that is, I'm not betraying myself. My fear of what I might feel is that's the biggest thing that people try to avoid.
So what's I I want to ask what's your coaching for that, because I think we all are experiencing this in our head right now as we're thinking about past relationships or maybe current relationships. But you know what came to mind when you said that, because we're both martial artists, is the tenets in our school in Hapkido International are courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit, and how those play out in this situation. Courtesy, we can clearly see being courteous to the other person. Integrity, so this is your part, the I'm having integrity with myself so that I'm not betraying myself, right? Perseverance, I'm going to go, this is not your perseverance to stick to the thing, it's perseverance to push through this emotion I have. Self-control is not let the anger, the all the contempt and all that come out. And then indomitable spirit is I cannot be dominated.
Absolutely. And the only shift I would say to that is the process of, instead of trying to push through the feelings and the experience, is to allow ourselves to sink into it and fully experience it. I often say to people will be angry or sad or hurt. And people look at me like I'm crazy. I'll say, enjoy it.
Be present with that. Be present with it.
Enjoy how fucking sad you are right now, because that means you're alive. Enjoy how fucking lonely you feel right now, because that means you're alive. Enjoy how even if we go to the point of, oh, I'm not attracted, nobody's ever going to want to be with me. Enjoy that feeling. Because here's the bottom line. Here's the gig. And this is where we get toxic or not toxic. I'm going to give an example first, and then we do not have a choice of whether or not we breathe. We only have the choice of how we breathe.
Okay.
And I'm saying that to everybody out there. If anybody out there wants to try to hold their breath and not breathe, go for it. And
good luck with that.
Yeah. And then let us know how that goes. But what will happen is, if someone can even hold their breath to the point to where they pass out, what happens? As soon as they pass out, they start to breathe. Right. Likewise, we do not have the choice about whether or not we feel or express our feelings. That is as much of a given as our breathing. We only have the choice of how we do that. That's our only choice. If we choose not to express our feelings directly or openly or in relationship, that will come out sideways. That will either come out toward another person, that will come out toward, it will come out somatically, and we could walk around with headaches and stomach aches. It can come out in all different kinds of ways. And even to the point of, it's like, let's say that a woman breaks up with me, and I go, God, I hate women. Well, that's not true. And well, one, I don't ever say that because I don't feel that. But when somebody, instead of saying, I am incredibly angry at her, because it's that one person that I'm upset with, not all women or not all men or not all anything. But it's like, how can I begin to, in a non-toxic way, allow myself the courage to feel what I need to feel and to express what I need to express? Because the toxicity comes in the lack of expression. on a
Oh,
personal level, just like on a interpersonal level.
and the not calling it out suggests a lack of safety around being able to say what's true, which belies the fact that it's not an authentic relationship.
Exactly.
Boom.
Boom. There you go, my man. Yes.
Boom. I love you. You said, this has happened to me millions of times. Yeah. I can, I was, did a writing project a few years back, and I just said, okay, I'm going to write a page for each wife. You know,
I'm not going to ask how many pages you wrote.
I should have gone for what was behind the curtain. Uh,
Door 3.
I'm in the last curtain. We can all identify with this, and what, as elders, I'm going to try to land this plane. As elders, what piece of advice would you give to someone who's listening right now, who, as a result of listening to this, we've triggered them, and we deeply apologize for that, and we don't. Um, what is the one next action they should take?
Find somebody to share this with on a deep level.
What's the this in that sentence?
Well,
Share the situation. Share
share
your
the
situation.
situation, to share our hurt, to share our loss, to share our betrayal. When we experience those things, loss, hurt, betrayal, toxicity, etc., in the relationship, that's an injury that happens to us in relationship.
Yeah.
The only way we can heal injuries that have happened in relationship is to be in relationship with another being.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's very much like and you don't have to be a therapist. We were on a call with Traver and gosh, I'm spacing the other two
Michael?
people's names. No. I think of Layla and Jeremy
Oh, yeah.
the other night. And one of the men asked, I'm not a therapist. How do I help somebody through really tough times? And because that's what they were talking about. I was just on the call as a participant. I wasn't the one speaking. And it was a great call. Everyone was saying really good things. But one of the other participants said, I'm just beginning the coaching piece. I don't want to get in over my head. Well, sitting with somebody on a park bench and just listening to them and saying, brother, you're going to be okay. I'm here. That's what I'm talking about. It's like, that's a big, huge piece that's missing. And our, not necessarily the nation, but our communities in general. It's like somebody to just say, yeah, this fucking happened. And my guts are falling out.
It makes me think that a lot of people may feel very alone in that situation, and that were they to reach out to a friend, they would find they aren't alone. It would relieve the pressure. I'm thinking the internal pressure of that building up and building up, and it comes out, and it could be a violent outburst, or it just could be something that just, to your point, somatically, hurts us, because the universe is not going to let that happen. The universe is going to find some way to release the pressure, right?
You bet. That's what happens.
And I love this idea of sometimes just shut up and listen.
You bet. And I will tell you that if you allow yourself to speak and be listened to, or if you allow another person to speak and be listened to, things will shift inside in about 20 minutes. Yeah, 20 minutes.
So 20 years will go away in 20 minutes?
No, the pressure will release in 20 minutes.
I understand.
So can I give one last metaphor here?
Please.
Or how are we doing on time?
I got room for one.
If an abscess develops in one of my horse's hooves, an abscess is an infection inside their hoof from a bruise, from a, standing in mud, et cetera, et cetera. If that abscess continues, it grows, and it actually can become systemic. It can actually cause infection to go through their entire body. The cure to that takes about 20 minutes, where if you catch it before it becomes systemic, which is literally where you're digging into their hoof and releasing the pressure of the abscess. You're digging and you're actually cutting a small hole open to relieve the pressure. That's what I'm talking about. That's a sitting on a park bench and listening. It relieves that pressure, and sometimes it's really yucky and stinky and squirts all over the place. But it's also incredibly satisfying, because once that pressure is relieved or released, the 20 years doesn't get healed in 20 minutes, but it creates the foundation for the rest of the healing to happen. And that's what we're going after. We clean out the abscess, then the rest of the healing can happen. If we don't clean out the abscess, it becomes systemic and toxic.
Dewey Freeman, you paint a picture of possibility, my friend, that is really worthwhile. This is one of the heavier shows, and I know that people probably question a lot of things, which we should do, right? It is part of observing with interest, observing our lives with interest, and not judging, saying that's a thought, that's a feeling, that's a thought, that's a feeling, and becoming detached enough to be able to see things clearly. Dewey Freeman, my friend, I love you so much, and I love our conversations. I can't wait till we have our next one.
Yeah, thank you, sir.